With Stalker 2 out last year, I thought it would be a good time to look back and see where it all began. So I spent the last few weeks playing through the whole Stalker trilogy, with an added extra mod pack as well. But we'll see those later. For now, back to the start of my 100+ hour Stalker binge. To Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl, the first game of the series released in 2007 from the games company GSC Game World. Originally it was set to be Mayan themed, but GSC changed focus after a visit to a huge part of Ukraine's history, the Chernobyl exclusion zone, a zone created by the Soviet Union during one of the worst nuclear disasters in human history. The radiation from the incident was so bad, they evacuated a 30-kilometer area around the power plant, and it's said to be uninhabitable to humans for the next 20,000 years. But I'll stop the history lesson there. If you want to know more, I would thoroughly recommend the Chernobyl series by HBO, which is a great watch. Now back to Stalker. Set in an alternate timeline where 20 years after the first disaster, in 2006, there was a second disaster, creating the zone as we know it. Storms, anomalies, mutants, military, and of course, stalkers. And this is where the beauty of Stalker begins. You start out the first game at a location called Rookie Village, surrounded by loners. No, I'm not insulting them, that's actually their names. A group of free stalkers, as they're otherwise known, who aren't part of any other faction. But instantly, you get a vibe for the game. Some of them might be sat around a fire playing a guitar, whereas others are keeping watch for enemy factions and horrifying mutants. But why would anyone even come to the zone? What's the point? Well, to understand that, we've got to talk about GSC's inspirations for some of the themes in Stalker. The book Roadside Picnic, written in 1972 by Soviet authors Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, a story about a young stalker who ventures illegally into the zone to collect mysterious artifacts left behind after aliens had visited Earth. The book's parallels to the Stalker games are so close that the game is considered a loose adaptation of the novel, even borrowing aspects from the book like artifacts and anomalies. Even the word stalker is used in the book to refer to illegal scavengers. But I can hear you saying, what the hell is an anomaly? And what is an artifact? Well, except you pro Stalker players back there, ignore this. In the Stalker universe, anomalies are energy phenomenons that occur during the second explosion of the Chernobyl power plant. They can vary from fire anomalies that will burn you to a crisp by stepping on them, electricity anomalies that electrocute you, or even anomalies that alter gravity and literally make you explode. And there's plenty more, but these anomalies create something called artifacts. And this is one of the main reasons stalkers come to the zone. Artifacts are created by anomalies when they're exposed to certain objects or conditions. These artifacts have unique characteristics, some making the holder more resilient to fire or electricity, which, as you can imagine, in the world of Stalker, makes them very valuable. And even more valuable outside the zone. But the inspiration doesn't stop there. In the Stalker universe, there's a mysterious monolith called the Wish Granter, which, if you can guess, grants the stalker who is strong enough to get to it their innermost desires, which again seems very similar to the Roadside Picnic with their golden sphere, which also grants wishes to whoever reaches it, which is also again shown in a film adaptation of the novel called Stalker, about the journey to find a room which also grants wishes. But now you understand the world some more, let's continue with the first game. I think what truly stood out to me whilst playing was the main quest is there, and you can blindly follow it if you want to, but if you really wanted to, you can just go out and live in the world. Most NPCs in the game can give you quests, and a lot of the features in the game lean towards a survival aspect. Your character needs to eat and drink as they go, and even your weapons have a condition rating, which if left untreated, could cause a weapon to malfunction or jam. And I know what you're thinking, tons of games have this now, but this game was back in 2007. Stalkers seemed to do so many things before its time, like even leaning around corners, use of a low crouch so you could effectively use cover, and thanks to their X-ray engine, even impressive physics allowing you to drag bodies, and even allow some of the mutants to drag bodies too. But as we're on the topic of mutants, why not dive into these monstrosities? As what would Stalker be without them? There's mutated animals like blind dogs, pseudo-dogs, rodents and boars, also whatever flesh is. Then there's psy-dogs that play tricks on you and get you to see double. Finally, the last animal, if you can call it that, is the Chimera. Yeah, nah, I'm good. Then we take a turn for the creepier mutants. The fan favourite bloodsucker, hunting you down and using invisibility to really give you a fright. Snorks, the mutant you've already seen, making horrible noises and just wanting to play leapfrog. And finally, the more psychic mutants. The controller, who makes you do this, the poltergeist and pyrogeist, one throwing objects at you and the other spawning pillars of fire to burn you to a crisp, and the Burrer. Well, I think that's how you say it. A mutant short in stature, but very powerful, using telekinetic powers to attack you and generating shields to protect itself. Then lastly, the big boy, the pseudo-giant. He's just a tank. But these mutants are a huge part of the scary thrill of Stalker. one of my friends who got me into the game, telling me how much he still remembers his first encounters with the Bloodsuckers, and how they still freak him out till this day. I mean, that's a lasting impression. But when you're done running around fighting God knows what, and learning to survive, you'll embark on a main quest to find the elusive stalker Strelok. Warning now, I will be pretty much spoiling the whole story, so sorry in advance. So with the story of the game, I was really surprised. A little ways through, you had to go through and shut down a machine called the Miracle Machine, which turns people in the area into zombies, which starts to show some of the creepier inner workings of the world of Stalker. And the next part of the game is the journey to the centre of the zone, where you aim to get to the Chernobyl power plant and find the zone's inner secrets and treasures. To get there, you must first take out one more machine, stopping all stalkers from venturing north. The Brain Scorcher, a machine that drives any intruder mad, but with the help of a scientist you acquire headgear that allows you to make it through, and shut it down. At the same time facing off against the Monolith, a faction of cultists that worship the Wish Granter, and protect the centre of the zone. But without boring you with all the details, you make it through to the centre of the zone, and to the Wish Granter, and make a wish. Mine being for riches. Just to be showered in gold, but it was all a lie, and you were crushed under the rubble. Well, that's what I thought anyways. After feeling a little bit underwhelmed, I carried on into the further games, and realised I didn't know half as much as I should have. I'd ended up coming back to Shadow of Chernobyl to understand more, and how blind I was. Revisiting the first game, I realised there was 7 endings. 7. So the ending I got apparently is a false ending, and you can make 5 different wishes, all of them being classed as a false ending. Wishing for riches, wishing for the zone to disappear, wishing to rule the world, wishing for immortality, and the most negative of all, saying humanity is corrupt and mankind needs to be controlled. But all the wishes end in horror, and can all be achieved by how you play the game and what you've done in the world, like how much money you have or if you killed any of the major faction leaders. So much more in depth than I imagined, but it doesn't stop there. Something I completely missed, and believe me, I have no idea how I did, is after you turn off the Miracle Machine, you find one of Strelok's men dead. Strelok being the man we've been hunting, by the way, if you can't remember. And he has information on Strelok's hideout, which upon investigation is booby-trapped, causing you to get knocked unconscious. But when you come to, you're greeted by a stalker called Doc, who refers to you as Strelok and tells you the Wish Granter is an illusion, to keep stalkers from finding the true centre of the zone. He then gives you the coordinates to a stash in Pripyat, and after fast forwarding through tons of fighting, you acquire a decoder from the stash to help you breach the secret door inside the sarcophagus. So the time comes. You're at the door of the Wish Granter, all quest markers pointing that way, but if you explore and find the secret door, you fight your way through some heavier guards and make it to a room with a hologram, telling you all the secrets of the zone. But after the Chernobyl disaster, scientists used this area to conduct research into something called the Noosphere. The sphere of the human thought, but the scientists tried to alter it, allowing them to remove negative emotions like anger, cruelty and greed. But a single person couldn't do it on their own, so they created the C consciousness, a collective consciousness of multiple scientists, and with this they successfully started to alter it. But it backfired, causing a second explosion in 2006 and creating the zone. And after a lot more questioning, you find out you in fact made it to the centre before and failed, and were sent back with amnesia to do the C consciousness's bidding. But it backfired, as the name they gave to you to kill was yourself, which leads you to a path you've already taken, therefore leading you to here. But at the end of it all, you're given an offer to join the C consciousness. But if you refuse, you're sent on a crazy shootout across the power plant until you reach the C consciousness itself. And you put an end to it. Ending the game with Strelok and Greenfields, wondering if it was the right choice or not. This honestly shocked me that a game from 2007 had multiple endings, and some pretty deep meanings, and even endings that were totally affected by how you played through the game. This all in all just impressed me, and instantly got me a little bit hooked into the lore of the franchise. Well, even further than we already were, let's be honest. Now onto the second game, Clear Sky. I'll say straight off the bat that Clear Sky definitely missed the mark after Shadow of Chernobyl, but I think the second game added some great features. They just weren't truly mastered until the third game. To start with, the game's graphics were definitely improved, looking better than ever, and added some great features like weapon and armor upgrades, and a new system to find the artifacts, by using your detector and finding them hidden in anomalies, instead of just being led around like they were in Shadow of Chernobyl. But the game did feel like it had great ideas, but just not perfectly executed, and the story was just a little bit lackluster. You get introduced to a faction called Clear Sky, scientists who are worried about the condition of the zone, and with the missions wreaking havoc, They believe it's caused by stalkers interfering with the centre of the zone, so they want to stop it. And as this is a prequel, you soon realise you're trying to stop the character Strelok from the first game, which after a lot of smaller quests for other factions, you chase him to the outer edges of the north, but end up having to fight your way through a town called Limansk, a little bit too Call of Duty style, and then again fight your way through sections of an old hospital, which also feels just a little bit too Call of Duty rather than the normal Stalker, and I honestly just got a little bit bored. I know the previous game had a lot of fighting towards the end, but I felt like in the first game you're actually fighting for something. Whereas in Clear Sky, I just don't think the story is very captivating. With the final parts of the game, you end up at the power plant again and get given the best guns in the game out of nowhere and told to stop Strelok. But my god, it just feels so spongy. You end up having to fight your way through tons of monolith soldiers and shoot Strelok like 30 times, just feeling a little bit underwhelming. Then the end sequence just shows you how Strelok lost his mind from the start of the first game. So all in all, the second game brought in really good features and just didn't really master any of them. But this is where the last game of the trilogy really delivered. Call of Pripyat. You play as Major Degtyarev, a member of the military faction sent to investigate why a planned attack on the power plant went horribly wrong. And that's where it starts you. Unlike the previous games, Call of Pripyat kind of just leaves you out in the open, so players can just decide what they want to do next. You have a bunch of military crash sites to look into, but other than that, you have free reign. And what I instantly noticed about the third installment was how organic it felt. I entered the first settlement, instantly getting asked to help with a job, which had two outcomes. Either help bandits to mug some stalkers, or go to the stalkers and warn them. This instantly got me interested, and the game carried on delivering. I began accepting quests all over, and doing a couple missions like hunting down mutants, even infiltrating mercenary bases. Well, I technically just wiped them out, but still, it gave me the choice to do it. And one super memorable quest, where we were searching for missing stalkers, hunting around old buildings to see if we could find them, but no luck. Then after I was just out exploring the world on my own, I uncovered another character who was actually a medic turned murderer, who was killing all the injured stalkers. But it just felt so interesting, like the world was truly living on without you. Also, the game very well implemented the ideas presented in the second game. The artifact hunting felt so rewarding and exciting, the upgrading of weapons and armor still felt great, and the graphics looked better than ever. And oh my god, the best change of all for the rat gamer like me, all the stashes in the world always had loot in them, so it just felt rewarding to explore. And this simply makes you feel like a stalker, giving you the feeling that you're actually living in the world. Then when you're finally done, you can carry on with the main quest that nicely takes you into new areas. And with the main story, it wasn't crazy, but it was enjoyable, introducing you to interesting and likable characters, and even had some really cool missions like the journey to Pripyat, where you have to create a squad from characters you met during the game, then take a dangerous tunnel to the city, where you come into contact with a monolith, who since the previous games have lost much of their control due to the actions of Strelok, then get into the end of the game where you find out reasons for your mission failure. Funny enough, it's just simple bad directions, pointed out by none other than Strelok himself, who comes to the military with valuable information about the zone, and with his help you can get the choppers to come in and evacuate the remaining survivors, as the monolith close in. And after a dramatic shootout with the monolith, and scraping through against multiple mutants, you get to the chopper and make it out of the zone. But again, the Stalker games took me by surprise, reading off everything that happens after the game's end, including consequences for not finishing certain quests that you had in the game, or even speaking about NPCs that you lost along the way. This is when I realised how great the freedom of this game was. Literally any of the characters could die and alter the ending of the game. Even Strelok could have kicked the bucket when you were trying to evacuate. This did something very dangerous to me. It really made me want to go back through the game and get other outcomes. It truly gives the player the choice to do what they want to do. Like you could just straight up kill all your team when you're passing through the tunnels, and you could have just been the only survivor at the end of the game. This is one of those features in the game that I think truly makes it unique. No hand-holding, and allowing the story to play out uniquely for you. Just got to hope they keep this for Stalker 2, because if they do, I can't even imagine the depth they can create in a game in today's scope. But I had finally finished the whole trilogy, and I had a blast doing it. But I craved a little more, and with Stalker still out of reach, I'm sure you know where the only option lies. Stalker Anomaly, or actually, Stalker Gamma. For anyone who doesn't know, Stalker Anomaly is a standalone mod pack for the Stalker games, allowing you to play through a fully combined map of all the games, with its own story and even more sandbox settings than the originals, so you can truly live out your life in the zone. Even allowing you to play as other factions, so for anyone who loves Stalker, it's a must. And if you don't want to take my word for it, just glance at YouTube with the hundreds of Stalker videos based around it, and come on, it's top of ModDB. But I didn't fully go for the original Anomaly, I decided to go to the extreme, Stalker Gamma, a modded version of Stalker Anomaly, making the game extremely more modern and very hardcore. And after a little tweaking, I had my perfect Stalker experience. And I was just blown away by how dedicated the modded community had been. The last Stalker game came out in 2009, and somehow modders have brought the old games to the new age. The graphics looked unreal, all the gun models looked great, the weather system was even better, they even added tons of new systems to the game like building a base, a whole new weapon system, animations, skills, crafting, a full body and health medical system, and finally an overall improvement to a now out of date game. And to be honest, I can see why the mod pack and Anomaly is so highly praised and loved. And after playing it myself for God knows how many hours, they truly hit the Stalker feeling. The mod pack truly lets you get fully immersed in the world. You can even edit the mod list and difficulties to make it the perfect experience for you, which I just found myself wanting to keep coming back to. Then something else I was so confused by was the mod pack is completely free. Like you don't even need to own the original games, even though it definitely uses all 3 of them. And GSC Game World is completely fine with it. They even mentioned it in interviews recently, some of the devs even play it. Which brings me to the next part of the Stalker journey, Stalker 2, which I have a full video on my channel, so go watch that if you're interested. But what's your favourite aspect of the Stalker series? Let me know down in the comments. But that's enough of that, I'll see you in the zone. Thanks for watching, if you enjoyed leave a like and comment below, and I'll see you in the next one.